First and foremost, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Quadash. Yahweh is who this world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is who this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Ba'ashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Quadash means holy. And that's all in the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the other bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today's lesson, I got inspired by another brother. He was going into how the so-called Latinos and the Native Americans are also Hebrew Israelites. Okay? And the reason I'm making this video is because you have Israelites out there, right? Negroes, which they try to push the doctrine that Latinos and Native Americans are not Israelites. And it's only black. It's only Negro. Which their argument and their doctrine is completely flawed. Right? Because the historical facts, the artifacts that are found here in the Americas point to the fact that the people here had Hebrew origins. Right? The people that were here in the Americas had a Hebrew language. So how do you explain that? And the explanation is that they are those people, the so-called 10 lost tribes. So I'm going to make a quick video pulling out the artifacts, the receipts, and just prove it once again that so-called Latinos and Native Americans are Hebrew Israelites too, specifically from the Northern Kingdom, right? Because when you go into the history of how this pretty much took place, so when King Solomon was ruling, he had a rule of 40 years of peace, and all 12 tribes were together, okay? But after the 40 years of peace, the kingdom was split, right? The 12 tribes were split into the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. Now, what happened is that both kingdoms went separate ways. The Southern Kingdom went into the Babylonian captivity. From the Babylonian captivity, the Southern Kingdom went under the Medo-Persians. From the Medo-Persians, they went under the Greeks. And from the Greeks, they went into the Romans. Okay? And those were the Jews that were there at the time when Yahweh Shai was on the scene, was the Southern Kingdom. Now, from there, 70 AD happened, which was when the Romans attacked the temple, okay, in Jerusalem, Israel, and that's where you get a lot of the dispersion, okay? When the temple got sacked by the Romans, a lot of the Southern Kingdom, the Jews, they went into Northern and Western Africa, right, fleeing from the Romans. And from there is where they were sold by the Africans, okay, which are Hamites. Okay, there's two different types of so-called black people, dark-skinned people, right? You had Hamites, the real Africans, which sold the Jews that migrated to Northern and Western Africa to the Edomites, to the so-called Europeans and the Grecians, as it says in the scriptures, right? These Africans sold the Jews to white people, right? That's where you get the transatlantic slavery, and that's how they got here to the Americas. Now, that's the route or the history of how the Southern Kingdom got to the Americas. Now, going into the Northern Kingdom, where did they go? Okay, so for the Northern Kingdom, instead of going under the captivity of the Babylonians, they went under the captivity of the Assyrians. Okay, and from the captivity of the Assyrians, they gathered themselves and came over here to the Americas on ships. That's what happened. Okay, they were under the Assyrian captivity, and they came to the Americas on their own timing. So let's read that history in 1 Kings chapter 17. It says, no, 2 Kings chapter 17. 2 Kings chapter 17. I'll start at verse 1. It says, in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea the son of Elah to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up, and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up through all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. Right, and this is going into the history of how the Assyrians, okay, pretty much put the northern kingdom in captivity. So when you go into what happened, right, we read Shalmaneser. Let me see if it hits it one more time in this chapter. Right, verse 23. Until Yahweh removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. Right, so Israel went under the Assyrian captivity. Now, the information of what happened to the Israelites in the Assyrian captivity is in the book of Apocrypha, is in the Apocrypha books, which the reason these books were taken out of the Bible by a group called the Bible Destruction Group is because of the information that it has, right? It connects the pieces of the Old Testament and the New Testament, okay, and who the real chosen people are. So when you go to 2nd Ezra chapter 13, and you go down to verse 40, it says, those are the 10 tribes which are carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, who Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. Right, that's what we just read. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Let me see some. Okay, we're recording. It says, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. Right, so the northern kingdom, the Israelites, they were in the Assyrian captivity, and they themselves got themselves together and said, you know what? Let's go into a land where nobody has ever dwelt, and let's go over there to keep our ways, to be righteous. Okay, and that land where nobody ever dwelt was talking about the Americas. Now, a question somebody might have is, how did they know about the Americas? Let me keep reading. It says, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river, for the Most High then shows signs for them, and held still the flood, till they were passed over. For through the country there was a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years, and the same region is called Arsareth. Then dwelt they there unto the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. So that region called Arsareth was talking about America. Okay, and it says that the passage, okay, it took 1.5 years. Right now, so going back to how did the Northern Kingdom Israelites know that America, okay, know about this land piece? Now the answer is that Solomon, okay, the answer is in Solomon. Solomon, okay, every single 3 years would set a navy to go to the Americas and bring back loot, or bring back treasures. Okay, that's how the Americas were known of. Let's read it right here. 2 Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 20. It says, and all the drinking vessels of King Solomon were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was not anything accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Aram. Every 3 years once came the ships of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. Okay, and that's a key component. So every 3 years, Solomon would send a navy to go to a land to bring back gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Now, the one key clue here is that word peacocks, right? When you go into that word peacocks, it goes into the Hebrew word tukium, right? Which when you go, it says peacock, baboon, ape, okay? Tuki, which this is actually talking about a turkey, right? When you go into it, probably a foreign derivation, some imported creature, probably a peacock, but the name is turkey, turkey. But when you go into the Genesis Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it says right here, the second one, saying Athen, IXP 397, whence Arab, also Pavel, T and P being interchanged. Okay, and that word Pavel, okay, in Spanish is turkey. Okay, when it's saying peacock, it's talking about a turkey. Okay, and where is the turkey originated from? Where is the turkey native to? Turkeys are native to the Americas, and there are only 2 living species. Okay, that's when the pieces come together. Okay, the turkey wasn't anywhere else in the East. That's why they were bringing it from the Americas, because it was rare. Okay, they've never seen that type of animal before. So every 3 years, Solomon will send his navy to go get gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks, aka turkeys. Okay, and this is how you know it's talking about the Americas. Now, putting it all together, right, going back to 2 Ezra 13, right, remember Solomon said every 3 years. Okay, and here it says, for through that country there is a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years. Now, this is where you get the confluence that is talking about the same place, right? Because year-round trip, it took 3 years for the ships to go and the ships to come back. 3 years. Here, it says 1.5 years to go over there. And it comes together showing you it's the same route, right? Where they went is they went under or around the Horn of Africa and across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas. And that trip took 1.5 years. Okay? It all comes together. As it says, 1.5 years to that region. Okay, just going one way 1.5 years. 1.5 years back equals 3 years. Okay, as Solomon said. So that's how the Northern Kingdom knew about. They knew, they had the maps, they had the knowledge of how to get there. Okay, I actually searched this up on ChatGPT. Okay, and this is proof that we are those people. So I searched it up on ChatGPT just to say what the AI software would say, and asked it a couple of questions. First thing I asked is, how long would it take 3,000 years ago to go from Jerusalem around the Horn of Africa to America on boat? And then I mistakenly put 300. I put 3,000 years, and they ended up saying that it would be impossible, right? It would take multiple years pretty much. Time estimate, if we hypothetically assume that they had a ship that could make this journey, it would not take many months, if not years. Okay, it says, give me how many years? It says, distance, speed estimate, stops, and delays, 2 to 5 years. It says, is 1.5 years possible? It says, in theory, if ancient mariners in 1000 BCE had access to the fastest and most advanced ships of their time, as well as near-perfect weather, a journey of 1.5 years would still be extremely unlikely for several reasons. Right? Speed constraints, supply stops and repairs, navigational limits, and weather delays. Even with ideal conditions, 1.5 years would not be enough. Okay, and right, one key thing is that it says that ancient mariners relied on coastal navigation, which means they would have to stay close to shorelines, adding significant distance and time. Open ocean navigation only developed much later, with more advanced tools for measuring latitude and longitude. And this is where I disagree, right? Because one thing that it says is, when you go into the history, it says that the Navy, okay, of pretty much Tarshish, the Navy of Tarshish, they were experts, okay? They were experts when it came to navigating the sea, right? And a lot of people don't know that, hey, back then they had technology that was not accounted for today, right? Our people, right, back then they had technology that was actually advanced. When you go into the knowledge of mathematics, okay, the Babylonians, they knew about, what's the word? Trigonometry and, give me a second. Quadratic, is it trigonometry? There's one higher than that. I have to search it up. Trigonometry. Right, they knew about geometry, trigonometry, okay? They knew about all these so-called mathematical things, right? Look at the pyramids of Giza and how they were built, right? They must have had technology to build those pyramids. So back then they had technology that today they said, oh, that wasn't around, right? When you go into the ChatGPT entry, it says how they didn't have technology back then. They didn't have open ocean navigation, but they did. So I asked, what if it was open ocean navigation? If ancient mariners in 1000 BCE had open open ocean navigation, an extreme hypothetical involving knowledge and technology far beyond their time, which is false. It says, with open ocean navigation and optimized ships, 1.5 years could potentially be enough to reach the Americas from Jerusalem. So boom, right? If they sail directly across the Atlantic, and that's exactly what they did. Okay, so there you go. The AI software telling you it's possible. Now, let's get it from a movie. Christopher Columbus used Second Ezra's book in Apocrypha to reach the Western Book. Okay, and this is from a movie, 1492, Conquest of Paradise. In an actual movie, they put this. So listen, showing you that these elites, these people up top, they know. Okay, they do their research. All right, there's the truth in front of you, man. Okay, he said Esdras. Okay, second Esdras 13, what we're reading. He was quoting, let's see it again. Esdras, second Esdras 13 and 45, right? And what are we reading right now? This is what he was quoting. He was quoting about how the Northern Kingdom came over here to the Americas. Okay, and that's how Columbus he knew about the Israelites coming over here. Right, there was information. That's why Columbus came to the Americas with 5 Hebrew interpreters. Did Columbus come to America with 5 Hebrew interpreters? Interpreters in various languages. Luis de Torres, okay, a convert from Judaism who spoke Hebrew and Arabic. Okay, hey, look at this right here, man. This is insane. It says, Luis de Torres, one notable interpreter on Columbus' voyage was Luis de Torres, a convert from Judaism who spoke Hebrew and Arabic. Columbus may have chosen him partly because he believed these languages would be useful if they encountered people from the East, or possibly if Columbus was expecting to encounter the lost tribes of Israel. It's right in front of you. They just told you. Okay? People from the East, those Israelites that went over. Speculative claims. Some accounts suggest Columbus may have thought he would encounter Jewish or Middle Eastern communities or the fabled lost tribes of Israel. This belief might have influenced his choice of an interpreter with knowledge of Hebrew and Arabic, though 5 Hebrew interpreters specifically is likely an exaggeration. Right, so there you go, man. Okay, the proof is right there. And he did find those lost tribes. And they weren't too lost because he knew about them. So now that we have that proof, let's get more proof. In this book by James Adair, History of the Native Americans, published in 1775, this is what he said. So this man called James Adair, he spent time amongst the Native Americans, and this is what he found. Okay? He said, before I conclude this argument, this is on page 253 of the book. It says, before I conclude this argument, I must here observe that when the Indians meet at night to gladden and unite their hearts before Yohiwa, they sing Yohiwa Shu, Yohiwa Shu, Yohiwa Shi, Yohiwa Shi, and Yohiwa Shai, with much energy. The first word is nearly in Hebrew characters, the name of Joshua or Savior, that says there's a letter there, is probably observed by a double vowel, a letter be observed that as is a ruler or commanding. So the Indians say Bule Haksi, strike a person that is criminal. In like manner, they sing Meshi Yo, Meshi Yo, Meshi He, Meshi Wa. Likewise, Meshi Ha Yo and Meshi Wa Ha, Meshi Wa He, transposing and accenting each syllable differently so as to make them appear different words. But they commonly make those words end with one syllable of the divine name, Yohiwa. Now the question is, why are these people saying those names? Why? And you know the answer. It's because these are the so-called lost tribes. Okay, it's just that from generation to generation, the name, it lost its original pronunciation, which is Yahweh and Yahawashai. Okay? The proof is right here in a book. You're never going to find these books in the library, okay, or in one of your schools, because it's the truth. It says, if we connect this with the former part of the subject and consider they are commonly anointed all over in the time of the religious songs and circuiting dances, the words seem to glance at the Hebrew original. And perhaps there is sometimes synonymous for that symbol signifies oil. The person anointed Messiah, and he who anointed, which the Indians is Mashiach, which what they were trying to say is Mashiach, right? Mashiach. Okay, they were trying to say Mashiach, which is Christ. Okay, Mashiach is Christ in the Hebrew, which means anointed. And one thing I do want to point out is that when you read Ezra, it says that they left, okay, the Assyrians to go over to another land, the Americas, to keep the ways of the Most High. But as you see in history, that went south real quick. Right? Our people, they did not keep the laws of the Most High here. They started going after false gods. They created their own gods. And go watch the movie Apocalypto to see what our people were doing. Right? Sacrificing our own people, chopping off heads down mountains and worshiping Tudo Khan and all these made-up gods. Right? Our people went completely left. But they still had those names. Okay, just altered. They're trying to say Yahweh and Yahawashai. How do you explain that? It says that these red savages formerly understood the radical meaning and emblematical design of the important words they use in their religious dances and sacred hymns. It's pretty obvious. If we consider the reverence they pay to the mysterious divine name Yohiwa and pausing during a long breath on each of the first two syllables, they're defining good by joining wa to the end of a word which otherwise expresses moral evil, as before noticed. And again, by making the same word a negative of good by separating the first syllable of that divine name. I'm going to jump down a little bit. It says, all their sacred songs seem likewise to illustrate it very clearly. Hallelujah, Shiluwa, Meshiwa, Meshihayo. Okay, they were literally saying hallelujah. The words which they repeat in their divine hymns while dancing in 3 circles around their supposed holy fire are deemed so sacred that they have not been known ever to mention them at any other time. And as they are most erect 114 people, their bowing posture during the time of those religious acclamations and invocations helps to confer their Hebrew origin. So this guy James Adair, okay, he realized that we are those people. Okay, and the proof is in the pudding. I think on page page 82 we have some more proof. Let's see. Let me search it up. Because he himself said that, hey, these people gotta be Israelites. He himself said it. Let me search it up in the book. Right here, page 88. It says at the bottom starting, it says, from the most exact observations I can make in a long time, I traded among the Indian Americans. I was forced to believe them lineally descended from the Israelites. either while they were a maritime power or soon after the general captivity. The latter, however, is the most probable. This descent I shall endeavor to prove from the religious rites, civil and marital customs, their marriages, funeral ceremonies, manners, language, traditions, and a variety of particulars, which will at the same time make the reader thoroughly acquainted with nations of which it may be said to this day, very little have been known. Right, so right there he tells you, hey, they either had some great maritime power, right, naval ability, or they came after the captivity, right, which the answer is they had that maritime power. They had the knowledge of crossing the seas because of Solomon. So I'll bring up one more fact, more proof, which is the Bat Creek Stone. Bat Creek Stone. We have the Bat Creek Stone and the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone. So it says the Bat Creek Stone is a small flat stone tablet with engraved markings that was discovered in 1889 during excavations of a burial mound in London County, Tennessee. Right, so a mound of a Cherokee. So when you go into it, it says the stone was originally thought to be written in the Cherokee syllabary, but an Ohio State University professor determined that inscription was actually Hebrew. Most experts today believe the stone is forgery. Some reasons for this include the stone's inscription includes an unintelligible sequence of 5 letters, which seems unlikely to be a coincidence. The stone has scratches that appear to have been added after the stone was first published, which may indicate that it is not ancient. The Smithsonian Institution has not confirmed or denied Thomas' identification of the inscription, and a more recent Semitic interpretation has not been verified. And that recent Semitic or Shemitic interpretation is that these people are the Israelites. Right? The reason they don't come out saying that this is a real stone is because all their history books will be out the window. Okay? It's not forgery. It's not fake stone. Okay? This is an engraving of our people. Okay? That they found with Hebrew characters. And one of the reasons you know also that this is our people is, and it's talk about the Northern Kingdom, is because the letters are written in the Paleo-Hebrew. Bat Creek Stone, Paleo-Hebrew. Right, there you go, the original Hebrew. Okay. Another one, the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone. They found this in Los Lunas, New Mexico. They found a stone. Okay, I'll just click this right here. The Los Lunas Decalogue Stone is a hoax associated with a large boulder on the side of a hidden mountain near Los Lunas, New Mexico, about 35 miles south of Albuquerque. This stone is also known as the Los Lunas Mystery Stone and Commandment Rock. This stone has gained notoriety in that some claim that inscription is pre-Columbian and therefore proof of early Shemitic contact with the Americas. Standard archaeological evidence contradicts this, however. Right? They're never going to admit and say that Israelites, right, Shemitic people were here. But when you look at the stone, okay, this is the Paleo-Hebrew, the original. Okay, and you can actually see the name of Yahweh right here. Right? It's the one in the middle. Okay, right in the middle of the screen. 4 letters, Yah-ha-wah-ha. Okay, these are our people. So, hey, the proof is there. I gotta go. I'll end this video right there. So, proof showing that the Israelites, or the so-called Native Americans and the Latinos, are Hebrew Israelites, the so-called lost tribes, the Northern Kingdom. Hopefully, this is edifying with that and give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Rakak Wadash, and double honors to the outer bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom to your life. Shalom.